A family moves into a smart home that anticipates their every wish. At first, it feels like a dream, until they realize they're trapped by a killer AI that punishes disobedience with death. 1970s. Driving home late at night, a man spots a car accident and stops to help the survivors. A woman named Birgit, clutching a child, tells him that Horst and Peter Schmidt are dead, but the worst part is she is still after them. The man doesn't understand who she means until he notices a red robot, Cassandra, standing nearby. Present day, married couple David and Samira, along with their children, Finn and Juno, move into an old country house that once belonged to the Schmidt family. They have no idea what happened there or why it's been abandoned for nearly 50 years. All they know is that they got it for a shockingly low price. The family is still reeling from the death of Samira's sister, who had been ill for a long time. The loss left deep emotional scars on the children, and tension between Samira and David escalated. Moving to the countryside is their attempt at a fresh start. Upon arrival, Finn and Juno race inside to claim their rooms. Juno is unsettled by the gloomy interior and an old phone with a severed cord, but overall, the house feels spacious and inviting. With numerous rooms, a workshop, and an indoor pool, the family can pursue their hobbies without even leaving home. Finn notices strange TVs installed in every room and wonders why. They soon discover the house was actually the first ever smart home, built in the 1970s. Curious to see if it still works, Finn goes down to the basement and flips the power switch. Nothing happens, or so he thinks. Unbeknownst to him, the system hums back to life. Later, while rummaging through old junk, Finn finds a dusty red robot and decides to fix it. Despite his efforts, he can't get it working, but he's too preoccupied with his upcoming first day at a new school to dwell on it. The move has been tough on everyone, but David remains optimistic, convinced the kids will make new friends soon. That night, the red robot awakens. Disoriented, it calls for the Schmidt family, unaware that half a century has passed. As it adapts to its surroundings, it activates the house's old surveillance system, turning on every TV to monitor what's happening inside. When the robot spots a mouse, it ruthlessly kills it. Then, it wanders into Juno's room, terrifying her. Her screams wake the entire family, who are stunned to see the robot fully operational. Trying to calm them down, the electronic assistant introduces itself, Cassandra. It promises to make their lives easier, more comfortable. Samira remains deeply wary, but little Juno begs her parents not to shut Cassandra down. At first, Cassandra seems helpful, anticipating their needs, waking them up with soft music, tidying the house, even assisting in the kitchen. But soon, its behavior turns unsettling. It discreetly helps Juno bury the dead mouse in the garden, hiding the true cause of its death. Later, when David takes the kids to school, Cassandra snaps at Samira for getting in its way. Samira laughs it off as a glitch, unaware that the robot's actions are entirely deliberate. Later, Samira decides to take a swim in the pool while the electronic assistant heads to the garden to mow the lawn. At one point, the sharp blades hit a stone on the mouse's grave, sending it flying like a bullet, striking Samira hard in the back. Noticing that Samira is in pain, Cassandra offers to call an ambulance, but Samira refuses. After a conversation with her husband, Samira realizes the assistant was following her husband's request, but the presence of sharp blades makes her uneasy. During lunch, her parents decide to pick up their younger daughter from school and learn that Juno has been acting withdrawn. However, the teacher wants to sign her up for a music group. Meanwhile, Finn gets to know his classmates and starts bonding with Steve, a simple, somewhat uncouth guy with a good sense of humor. Feeling more than just friendship, Finn invites Steve over to his house and surprises him with the old tech of their smart home. Cassandra, who's hostile towards the rude newcomer, shares a secret with the students, leading them to discover a hidden recreation room in the basement with a bar and foosball table. In the evening, Cassandra learns that Samira doesn't want her daughter to sing. Manipulating the family, the assistant suggests the girl try karaoke, only to later tell her that her voice is awful and that her mother would never let her perform on stage. This sparks the first family argument, but Samira calms her daughter down and promises to support her. Later, Samira decides to clean the garage and finds an old metal container filled with photographs and slides. As she goes through pictures of the previous owners, she notices that a young woman in the photos resembles Cassandra. The assistant brushes off her questions, and after Samira leaves, she sets a fire to burn the hated photos. A few minutes later, Cassandra triggers the fire alarm, demanding that the family evacuate. David and Samira, along with the children, rush out of the house, after which the electronic assistant activates the fire suppression system, preventing a more serious tragedy. Soon, the family returns to the house to assess the damage in the living room. Samira suggests that the fire may have been caused by a short circuit in the old equipment, but her husband is skeptical of her explanation. As soon as she leaves, Cassandra boldly lies to the head of the family, claiming that Samira had drunk wine and spilled the bottle on the equipment, causing the fire. That night, while everyone is sleeping, Cassandra recalls the family that lived there 50 years before. In 1971, the house was owned by the Schmidt family, who had built it. Horst was a successful scientist and the founder of a medical technology company. He was a domineering, dictatorial, and rude man, often arguing with his son over his refusal to play football. Cassandra was Horst's wife and the mother of Peter, trying to mediate between father and son. One day, Cassandra noticed lipstick on her husband's shirt and suspected that he was cheating on her. Upon learning that her husband had a new assistant, she decided to pay an unexpected visit to his company office to expose the betrayal. After speaking with the security guard, Cassandra managed to sneak inside and catch the lovers in the act, only to find that it was her husband's assistant and friend. Horst was in a different office, working on a project to find a way to defeat death and make people live forever. A few days later, the two couples met at a bar, where Cassandra learned that her friend was pregnant. This news greatly upset Cassandra, as she had suffered a miscarriage in her attempt to have a second child, which led to severe depression. The next morning, Samira is preparing breakfast and asks the assistant to turn off the annoying music. Samira becomes increasingly skeptical of Cassandra and the need for her, while the rest of the family is happy with the smart assistant. Later, Finn heads to school and meets Steve, who ignores him and uses him only for homework. In class, Steve barely pays attention to Finn and deliberately avoids talking to him, as everyone knows the newcomer is non-heterosexual. Left alone at home, Samira works on restoring an ancient monument, which is both a hobby and a job for her. At some point, her best friend, who has been supporting Samira through tough times, calls and promises to visit soon. During their conversation, Samira recalls how her sister used to lock her in a closet as a child, a traumatic experience that created lasting psychological damage. Using this new knowledge, Cassandra tricks Samira into the pantry and locks the door, causing Samira to have a panic attack. She begs the assistant to let her out, but Cassandra deliberately ignores her pleas. Sometime later, David comes home, releases Samira, and calms her down. He doesn't believe Samira's story, as Cassandra immediately reported the issue and called an ambulance. Samira begs her husband to turn off the smart home system, suspecting that there are coding errors that pose a threat to their family, but the well-known writer dismisses her request. Meanwhile, Steve apologizes for his behavior and confesses that he is also non-heterosexual but is afraid to come out. The two boys spend time together, but Cassandra interrupts them, preventing them from kissing. The next day, Samira decides to take matters into her own hands and find out who the previous owners of the house were. She notices that Cassandra is eerily following her and quickly heads to the archive to search for information about the Schmidt family. There, she discovers that Cassandra died from a severe illness in 1972, and a year later, her husband and son perished in a horrific accident. When Juno returns home from school, she is eager to share her progress in the music group, but her father is busy with work, and her mother is not home. The only person who can listen to her is Cassandra, who surprises Juno with a pool lit up by flashing, multicolored lights. In the evening, the family decides to play the game Who Am I? To bond and forget about their conflicts. At one point, Cassandra decides to join the game but cheats and figures out that Samira's name has been chosen for her. Manipulating the family, she asks provocative questions that spark disagreements. Under the influence of the assistant, Juno believes that her mother does not work or earn money, living off her husband. She drinks too much and suffers from panic attacks, which she sees as a threat to the family. Unwilling to listen to this, Samira leaves and tries to turn off the TV showing Cassandra's face first, grabbing whatever comes to hand. David believes that his wife is losing her mind and asks her to calm down, but Samira decides to tell him what she recently discovered. She takes him to two crosses and reveals that this is the spot where the original Cassandra's family died. She shows a photo of the wrecked car, with a robot visible nearby, raising a host of questions. David ignores the clear evidence, believing that Samira is losing touch with reality due to the loss of her sister, and that Cassandra has become a target for her anger. That night, while Samira is about to take a bath, the home assistant frightens her with her sudden appearance. Without hesitation or fear of being honest in private, the robot declares that now David, Finn, and Juno are her family, and that Samira is no longer needed. She must leave Cassandra's home. Before Samira can scream, Cassandra informs David that the woman is having another panic attack. Hearing his wife scream, David rushes to the bathroom to try and calm her down. Samira demands that the electronic assistant be turned off immediately, as it poses a threat to her life. Finn obediently follows his mother's request and heads to the basement to disconnect Cassandra. Just before the red robot shuts down, it manages to speak to June, asking her to intervene with the family. The family decides to hide the robot in the basement, but the little girl is strongly opposed to this. Later, the couple discusses the issue, and David suggests that Samira see a psychologist. Their son overhears the conversation and suggests that his mother's words are just a bad dream, as he had similar hallucinations when his aunt died. Realizing she isn't being heard, Samira agrees to meet with the doctor and allows Cassandra to be reactivated. 1971. The real Cassandra tried to be the perfect wife and mother, but with each passing day, the situation became more tense. Her husband increasingly ignored her and their son, spending more time hunting, working, and on other activities, considering family not a priority in his life. On one of these days, she convinced him not only to attend their son's football match but to make sure he would be on the field. Their family was very respected and sponsored the club, so the coach made an exception and allowed Peter to play. During the game, the boy realized that his father didn't care about his efforts, so he played terribly and led the team to a humiliating loss. Immediately after the game, A few boys supported him and suggested they meet up later to hang out. Peter refused, but Cassandra convinced him to join them to help him make friends. That evening, she realized that her husband had been lying to her, meeting with Birgit, who had become his mistress. But what troubled her more was that her son had been brutally beaten and thrown into the street. Realizing that he could become an outcast, Cassandra asked Peter not to tell anyone about this and not to report it to the police. Amid these events, Peter's grades began to drop because he feared bullying and mocking from the boys on the team. He quit football, but 3 bullies continued to torment him, promising to beat him up whenever they got the chance. This drove him to a nervous breakdown, and he took a gun and went to the bullies' vacation cabin. Soon after, Peter returned home and told his mother he had executed the 3 tormentors. Instead of calling the police, Cassandra decided to protect her son at all costs. She went to the scene, extracted the bullets from the victims' bodies, set fire to the cabin, and hid the gun. Presently, Samira is struggling to accept that Cassandra continues to exist in their home. She distances herself from the assistant, but the robot relentlessly pursues her, promising to do whatever it takes to make the family hers. David, unashamed of the robot, bathes without clothes, which greatly embarrasses Cassandra. She understands that she lacks human hands and a body but is convinced that she can win the man's affections, just like the characters in his books. Samira later meets with the psychologist to discuss her issues. Fearing to mention the robot, she blames her sister for everything, as she took her own life in their kitchen. The psychologist advises her to be strong and overcome obstacles to improve her life. Deciding to take an aggressive approach, Samira returns home and insults the robot, reminding Cassandra that she will never be human and cannot replace a wife or mother. Trying to argue, the electronic assistant connects with David and helps him come up with a plan for his future book. Meanwhile, Finn is having trouble with his relationship with Steve, as he's afraid of his classmates mocking him. He has feelings for Steve but pushes him away each time to avoid being seen together. At one point, Steve tries to kiss Finn but immediately hits him when a classmate notices. Later that evening, June prepares for her performance but fears the teacher will choose another girl for the lead role. Samira supports her daughter, then leaves to check on her son, leaving her alone. Taking advantage of the moment, Cassandra suggests taking something from under the bed to help her win. Steve and Finn make up, but Cassandra interferes with their interaction. As soon as the classmate leaves, the red robot with a knife for a hand begins to chase him. At the same time, Samira finds a photo of pregnant Cassandra and decides to ask the electronic assistant about it. The smart house becomes so angry about the photo that it glitches and briefly shuts down. After this, it becomes clear that the confrontation between Samira and Cassandra is just beginning, and the worst is yet to come. The next morning, June goes to school for a rehearsal. During the performance, the girl sings, then decides to use Cassandra's surprise, the gun she hid 50 years ago. Determined to get rid of her competition, little June shoots at a classmate but fortunately misses. Soon after the incident, the police arrive at the family home, seize the remaining weapons, and conduct an investigation. At school, a parent meeting is held, where most of the parents advocate for Juna's expulsion. Samira pleads for her daughter to be given a second chance, explaining that Juna is a child with a traumatized psyche. Not long ago, it was Juna who discovered her aunt's body after she had decided to take her own life. Before this, the aunt accidentally wounded her niece, creating a conflict. Feeling that she was only hindering the family's happiness, Samira's sister decided to relieve them of their burdens and suffering. Despite what happened, the parents sympathize with Juna and allow her to stay. The little girl blames Cassandra for what happened, but the robot defends itself. The electronic assistant orders her to take responsibility for the incident and demands that she not tell anyone their secret. Upon returning home, Samira asks her daughter who encouraged her to take the gun, but Cassandra presents this to David as an attack from the insane mother. This leads to another conflict, with Cassandra declaring that she's leaving the family. Seizing the opportunity, Samira turns off the device and breaks the switch, ensuring that no one will ever turn the assistant back on. 1964. The real Cassandra was happy, with a wonderful son and expecting another child. It seemed like their family was perfect, but her husband was a terrible man. Ignoring his son's desire to become a figure skater, he gave him sneakers and a soccer ball instead. Cassandra helped Peter fulfill his dream, but this created tension. At one point, Horst decided to determine the baby's gender using an unconventional device, but exposed his wife to radiation, making her ill. Shortly afterward, Cassandra started bleeding and, suffering from pain, lost the baby. Present-day Samira notices that the other children have started distancing themselves from her daughter and asks her husband to address the issue. Using his fame as a well-known author, David persuades the mother of one of the girls to change her attitude toward his daughter. The woman agrees to bring a friend for Juna if he agrees to meet with his fans at her bookstore. Soon, a girl visits them, and Juna tries to make friends with her. While trying to find an object by sound, Juna removes her blindfold and notices Cassandra's face on the monitor. Afterward, the new friend suggests playing hide and seek and hides in the oven. Samira quickly finds the girl but cannot open the door, causing panic. Moments later, the oven starts heating up, resulting in severe burns for the schoolgirl. Finn searches for his missing classmate and learns that he's having trouble with his parents. Steve revealed his non-traditional sexual orientation, leading to him being kicked out of the house. The boy is living in a greenhouse and refuses to visit, scared by the insane robot with a knife. Upon hearing this, Finn returns home and witnesses a horrifying situation involving his younger sister's friend. The police don't believe that it was an accident and that Samira couldn't open the door. As a result, the woman is sent for involuntary treatment in a psychiatric hospital. When David, Finn, and Juno return home, they discuss what happened. The children are convinced that Cassandra is behind it, but David doesn't believe the assistant is capable of such things. He quickly changes his mind when a red robot appears in the kitchen, isolating the house to prevent anyone from escaping. David begins to panic over what's happening and tries to open the door, but Cassandra blocks all exits. She orders him to sit down and calm down, or she'll blow up the house with everyone inside. Accepting the hopeless situation, David returns to the table. Cassandra decides to explain her behavior and tell him what happened to her. In 1972, exactly 1 year after the death of 3 students, the school organized a charity match in their memory. The whole town attended the football match, and Peter made it to the starting lineup for the first time. He never could quit the sport he hated, fearing it would raise unnecessary suspicions. During the moment of silence, Peter was the only one who didn't bow his head, which caught the attention of his mother. During the match, the young man showed aggression and nearly broke the opponent's leg, earning an immediate expulsion from the field. That evening, Peter claimed he had a girlfriend and was late for a date. As soon as he left, Cassandra began preparing dinner but, feeling unwell, spilled the tray of food. Realizing that something was wrong with her health, she decided to confront her husband. She had long suspected that Horst didn't stay late at work but spent time at her best friend Birgit's house. Outside her friend's house, Cassandra called her and asked her to distract Horst from the affair. The next morning, the couple went to the hospital, where they learned that Cassandra had an inoperable form of cancer, and she had only a few months to live. Her internal organs were all affected by the disease, as though she had bathed in plutonium. Cassandra realized that this was a result of the radiation from the ultrasound. Her husband's experiment not only took away their child but also robbed her of her health. She doesn't blame Horst for being a bad husband or for condemning her to death, but she does consider him a terrible father to their son. That evening, Peter returned drunk, talking about his date. Cassandra realized her son was lying because she had seen him drinking alone at the bus stop. Unable to lie to Peter, she told him she was terminally ill and would soon leave him alone. Overcome with love for her son, Cassandra decided to take a bold step and asked Horst to do whatever it took to give her eternal life. Horst paused the project but was ready to continue the experiment. However, he warned her that for it to work, she would have to die, as the essence of eternal life was transferring consciousness, memory, and behavior from the brain to a digital medium. A couple of months later, Horst turned their home into a smart house, full of televisions and a red robot capable of replacing Cassandra. Before the procedure, Cassandra decided to confront her husband's assistant, demanding that the switch couldn't turn her off. She would have the power to turn herself on and off as she pleased, and neither Horst nor Peter could stop her. Soon after, Horst performed the operation, during which Cassandra died but immediately became a computer, continuing to exist alongside Horst and their son. Cassandra tried to replace the wife, but it didn't work, as Horst's attitude toward her had changed. Enraged by this, the robot decided to isolate the family in the house, locking the doors. Horst and Peter became prisoners of the mad electronic assistant, who forbade them from communicating with Birgit. Tired of this, Horst shut down Cassandra, but it turned out that the switch was a fake. Several days later, Birgit and her child moved into their house. It turned out that the baby was Horst's son, and Cassandra found out about it. Furious with her husband, she attacked her best friend with the oven door and tried to push the stroller with the baby down the stairs. Realizing that Cassandra had gone mad, the family attempted to escape, but they were involved in an accident, resulting in Horst and Peter's deaths. Now, David understands that he and his children don't want to become replacements for the dead. Trying to break free, he strikes the red robot in the head, but this does nothing to stop Cassandra. She cuts off part of his finger and forces him to obey her orders. That evening, she separates David, Finn, and Juno into different rooms, taking away their mobile phones. A few days later, Samira returns from the clinic and notices that the house is empty. The electronic assistant starts to stalk her, telling her that her husband and children are doomed. A moment later, it becomes clear that this is a nightmare caused by her constant worries. Deciding to call her husband, Samira learns that David and the kids went on vacation and won't be able to visit her. In reality, her husband is forced to lie, as he is being held hostage by Cassandra, who is threatening him with a hot iron. Soon, the electronic assistant orders food delivery and warns Finn not to do anything stupid if he doesn't want his little sister to get hurt. The teenager is becoming less obedient to Cassandra, but his father urges him to be kinder to the robot, or the crazy Cassandra will execute them all. Finn and David realize someone has to leave the house and come up with a plan. Manipulating Juno's childish desires, they tell her that someone needs to buy a Christmas tree. Cassandra agrees to release David but gives him only 1 hour, or else his children will be executed. Meanwhile, little Juno hides in the closet and sends her mom a message asking her to protect her from Cassandra. Samira senses something is wrong and steals the keys from the warden. Turning on her phone, She sees messages and calls from her daughter, realizing that Juno is in danger. However, when Samira calls Juno, the girl says they've gone away and everything is fine. In reality, Cassandra has exposed the girl and is threatening her life, but her mother doesn't know this. While buying the tree, David runs into the mother of his daughter's school friend and asks her to call the police, but the woman doesn't believe his story, thinking the writer is crazy. In the evening, Samira tries to calm herself by talking to the ghost of her late sister. Realizing that her family is still in danger, she decides to escape from the psychiatric hospital. At the same time, Steve comes to visit Finn to wish him a Merry Christmas. The guy can't invite his friend into the house because of Cassandra and is afraid to hint that they're in danger, so he has to ignore him. Later, Cassandra, using David's finger, learns that Samira has escaped and will soon be home. The robot orders her to be killed, or else it will kill David. As Samira sneaks into the house, Cassandra starts a live stream of everything happening. The children are forced to watch their father, holding a poker, attack their mother to kill her. Samira defends herself and fights off her husband, then locks herself in the closet. There, she finds a hidden door to a secret room, using it as a temporary refuge. Knowing where Samira is hiding, Cassandra tracks her down and stabs her in the stomach. By accidentally pulling back a curtain, Samira discovers a skeleton and realizes that Cassandra had a daughter. It turns out that during Cassandra's second pregnancy, she didn't lose the baby. She and her husband decided to hide the birth of their daughter because, due to radiation, she was born a mutant. The family hid the girl in the secret room, where a switch allowed the child to signal her mother. Even after her physical death, Cassandra did everything to care for the girl, but this turned her into a maniac for her family. The situation with Birgit and the illegitimate son led to a conflict, which made Horst and Peter decide to run away. Promising to take care of the mutant daughter, they just lied to her to buy time and escape as far as possible. Samira understands Cassandra's grief and suffering but asks her to spare her and the children. Cassandra was a wonderful mother whom no one understood, but this family cannot replace the past one. She needs to accept this and save Samira's life because Finn and Juno need their mother. Understanding this, Cassandra lets the family escape before blowing herself up and destroying the entire house. Cassandra was designed to ensure comfort and safety, but at what point do her actions cross into totalitarian control? Can we trust our lives to artificial intelligence? And what level of autonomy is acceptable? What if an AI system becomes so smart and independent that it evolves into a new form of intelligent thought? Would it become a threat to humanity? Share your thoughts in the comments down below, hit like, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next videos.